I got into my husband's car and found a tube of personal lubricant in the glove compartment. I didn't say a word. I just secretly replaced it with industrial superglue. And what happened next forced our neighbors to make an emergency call to the fire department. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story of revenge from. I want to know how far it's traveled. I sat at the kitchen table. The silence in the house as thick as morning fog. A silence that had become a constant unwelcome guest. The old clock on the wall, a wedding gift from my late mother, ticked with a relentless accusatory rhythm. Each beat a painful reminder of a life I was beginning to suspect was a beautiful, meticulously crafted lie. My husband Julian had just returned from one of his countless business dinners. He looked not merely exhausted, but haunted, as if he carried the weight of a secret too heavy to bear. His face was a map of fatigue and guilt, lines etched around his eyes and mouth that had never been there before. He tossed his jacket on the sofa with a weariness that felt performative, loosened his tie as if it were a noose he was desperate to escape, and collapsed onto the bed, the familiar springs groaning under his weight, without even bothering to shower. The faint scent of his expensive cologne hung in the air, but it was mixed with a new alien fragrance, a sweet floral perfume that felt like an intrusion, a brazen confession from a life I didn't know he was living. A few minutes later, the gentle hum of his snoring filled the house, a sound that once brought me comfort, but now felt like a mocking lullaby. A lullaby for a fool. I got up, moving with the quiet, practiced grace of a wife of 40 years, and began to tidy up the mess he'd left in the living room, his jacket, his wallet, his cell phone, his old laptop. The phone screen was still on, a new email glowing like a sinister omen. I frowned. Julian never used email. He always said, "Juliet, all this tech stuff is too complicated. I'd rather just make a call." But now, an email. It was right there in plain sight. A digital ghost from a life I didn't know he was leading. Out of a morbid curiosity that felt both wrong and necessary, I opened it. The message was short, a mere handful of words that would shatter my world. "You were incredible tonight, Dad." It was followed by a red heart, a symbol of affection that pierced my own heart with a cold, sharp ache. I froze as if someone had slapped me. The digital world a cruel mirror reflecting a truth I was too terrified to see. Dad. The word echoed in my mind. Who was calling him that? And in such an intimate, affectionate tone, I swiped down, my thumb trembling, looking for more clues. But there was nothing. Just a strange email address, a jumble of meaningless characters that offered no answers, only more questions. A shiver ran through me, not from cold, but from a profound, bone-deep fear. It felt like a cold wind coming in through a crack in the door of my life, revealing a secret chamber I never knew existed. I glanced at the bedroom and saw Julian turn over with a sputtering snore, his face still and peaceful, a stark and infuriating contrast to the storm raging inside me. My heart pounded like a thief's, a frantic, guilty beat. I quickly put the phone back, my hands shaking so much I almost dropped it. I continued cleaning up, my movements now mechanical, robotic. I gathered his dirty clothes to take to the laundry. As I checked his pant pockets, I felt a folded piece of paper, crisp and new. It was a receipt from a fancy steakhouse in San Antonio dated that very night. I frowned. San Antonio? He had told me he was meeting his partners in Dallas. A tiny bitter laugh escaped my lips. Julian hated driving to Dallas. San Antonio, on the other hand, was where his mother had lived before she passed away. He had fond memories there, a fact he had often reminded me of. But who had he had dinner with in San Antonio while lying to me about being in Dallas? The receipt showed a party of two, a bottle of expensive Cabernet Sauvignon, a wine he had bought me for our 10th anniversary, a wine I had never forgotten, and main courses of filet and pasta. I tried to remember the last time Julian took me to a place like that. Maybe 10 years ago when I opened my first bakery. It was a memory etched in my mind. The flickering candle light, his proud smile, the way he toasted my success. Now that memory was a lie, a faded photograph in a scrapbook of deceit. I took out my own phone and with a silent, determined resolve snapped a picture of the receipt and the email. I didn't want to believe it, but a woman's intuition, a wife of 40 years' intuition, is a deep primal knowing. Something was going on, and I had to find out what it was. My hands were trembling, not just with anger, but with a deep existential dread. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to witness the spectacular collapse of my entire life. I went to the garage. Julian's old SUV was still warm, the air thick with the smell of gasoline and that faint sweet perfume from his clothes. I opened the door, a small cold dread gripping my stomach. I turned on my flashlight and checked every corner of the driver's seat. There was nothing out of the ordinary, just some loose change and an empty water bottle. But as I reached into the passenger side glove box, my fingers brushed against something plastic and slippery. I pulled it out and my heart almost stopped. A tube of used personal lubricant with dried residue on the cap, a sticky, damning piece of evidence. I stood there in the dark garage, staring at it as if it were a dirty secret, a tangible manifestation of my worst fears. Julian and I hadn't been intimate in years. He always said he was tired, that age had sapped his desire. So, what was this lubricant for? The question echoed in my mind, each syllable a hammer blow to my fragile reality. I felt paralyzed, but kept a clear head, a survival instinct kicking in. I put it back exactly where I'd found it. I wiped my hands with a napkin, scrubbing them raw, as if I were afraid the betrayal would leave a permanent mark on my skin. I continued searching, this time more carefully, more methodically. Under the back seat, I found some crumpled napkins soaked in a sweet floral perfume that wasn't a man's and wasn't my soft, familiar rose fragrance. The scent was alien, defiant, a loud, vulgar shout of infidelity in the quiet sanctuary of our garage. I took photos of everything, the lubricant, the napkins, as if I could capture the scent in an image. I closed the car and went back inside, the weight of the evidence pressing down on me, heavier than any flour sack I had ever lifted. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands trembling uncontrollably as I picked up Julian's phone again. By this point, I was almost certain he was cheating on me. I checked his messages, but there were only work chats, cold and dry, like a desert landscape. His inbox was empty, except for that one strange email. I checked the sent and draft folders. Nothing. Everything was too clean, too perfect, suspiciously so, as if he had erased every trace of his deception. A master of lies, I thought bitterly. My rage was now a cold, hard stone in my chest, and a new, more dangerous emotion began to stir within me, a desire for truth, a need to expose the lie, no matter the cost. The next morning, just as the sun rose and the soft light filtered through the window curtains, I was already awake, a ghost in my own house. The image of the lubricant, the restaurant receipt, and that email wouldn't stop swirling in my head, a venomous carousel of doubt. I stood in the kitchen, my hands busy, but my mind a frantic whirlwind. I made a simple breakfast, 2 fried eggs, some toast, and a cup of the strong black coffee Julian liked. I had barely slept all night. Julian came down looking tired, his hair a mess, and his eyes still groggy. He sat at the table, grabbed his coffee cup, took a sip, and set it down half full. "I have an important meeting today," he said in a husky voice, a rehearsed line he'd used countless times before without looking me in the eye. "I'm sure I'll be home late." He was so good at this, I thought. The easy lies, the casual tone, it made my blood run cold. I nodded with a strained smile, though all I wanted to do was scream, "Where is the meeting? With whom? In San Antonio again?" But I held back, my rage a silent fire, and simply replied, "All right, be careful." He got up, gave me a light pat on the shoulder, a gesture that felt more like an afterthought than a sign of affection, and left. The door closed, leaving the kitchen in silence, and me with a suspicion that was growing into a monstrous certainty. I cleared the table and washed the dishes one by one, the rhythm of the task, a small anchor in the storm of my emotions. I couldn't just sit there inventing theories. I needed the truth, hard evidence. I picked up my phone and looked for the number for Mrs. Miller, a friend from years ago who had helped me so much when I first opened the bakery. She had once told me about a good private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. "Juliet, if you ever need it, I can give you Thomas's number," she had said. "He's very discreet and reliable." I never thought I would need to call him, but now I had no other choice. I dialed her number, my voice trembling, each ring a drumbeat of my mounting anxiety. "Hello, Mrs. Miller. Can you help me get in touch with Thomas? I need him." She was silent for a few seconds, a pause that spoke volumes before answering. "Juliet, what's going on? Did Julian do something?" I sighed, not wanting to get into the details over the phone, my pride bruised and raw. "I just need to know the truth. Can you help me?" Mrs. Miller, a woman of few words but profound intuition, agreed immediately, and just an hour later, I received a message from Thomas asking me to meet him at noon at a small cafe downtown. "Mrs. Roberts, please don't worry. I will help you," he wrote. The message was short, but it was enough to give me a little relief. A lifeline in a sea of deceit. At noon, I went to the cafe, a tiny place with worn wooden tables and the aroma of roasted coffee filling the air, a scent that usually comforted me, but now felt strangely foreign. I chose a secluded corner where no one would notice me, a shadow in a room full of light. Thomas walked in, a middle-aged man, short and stocky, with a simple light blue shirt and philosophical eyes that seemed to read everything, to see through the surface of things. I handed him a flash drive with the photos I had taken the night before. The strange email, the restaurant receipt, the lubricant tube, and some napkins. "This is all I have," I said, my voice shaky. "I'm not sure, but I think my husband is cheating on me." The words tasted like ash. Thomas nodded, reviewing each image on his phone, his face impassive, a professional facade hiding whatever thoughts he had. He carefully made notes in a small notebook. "Mrs. Roberts, I understand. I'll start following Mr. Roberts this afternoon. Don't worry, I'll let you know as soon as possible." I looked at him, trying to hold back the tears that were burning my eyes. "Thank you," I said softly. "I just want to know the truth, whatever it may be." Thomas nodded with a compassionate look, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "I'll do my best. Go home and don't do anything to arouse suspicion." I left the cafe and walked through the crowd. But I felt a loneliness I had never experienced before. 40 years of marriage, a lifetime built on a foundation of trust that was now crumbling beneath my feet. I had put all my trust in Julian. I always believed he was a family man, someone who would be with me through any difficulty. He was my rock, my anchor. And now here I was hiring a stranger to follow my own husband. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. I felt like I was in a bad movie, a character in a drama I never auditioned for. That night, as I sat in the bakery, the familiar scent of yeast and flour, a constant soothing presence going over delivery invoices. My phone vibrated. A message from Mr. Thomas. I opened it, my heart pounding a mile a minute, the blood roaring in my ears. It was a photo of Julian in the light blue shirt he often wore, entering a fancy restaurant, holding hands with a woman. I zoomed in on the image, and my heart stopped. It was Allison, my daughter-in-law. She was wearing a tight black dress with heavy makeup, intense red lipstick, and her hair down. They didn't look like father-in-law and daughter-in-law, but like a couple on a date. Their bodies turned toward each other, a shared secret between them. I sank into my chair, my hand trembling as I held the phone. "Allison, how was this possible?" At family gatherings, she and Julian always acted distant, barely speaking to each other. I now realized it was a masterful act, a performance for my benefit. Mr. Thomas sent more photos. In one, they were sitting in a secluded corner, the table decorated with candles and flowers. Allison was leaning toward him, smiling, and Julian was toasting her glass with an oddly tender gaze. I saw the photo and felt a crushing pain in my chest. In 40 years, I had never seen him look at me like that, not even when we were young. When I was that girl from San Diego with long hair and a radiant smile, he looked at me that way, a look of genuine adoration, of a love I thought was mine. Now it was hers. In the middle of the night, a video arrived from Mr. Thomas. The clock on the wall read 2 a.m. I put on my headphones, a desperate attempt to keep the secret contained, and pressed play. My hands so shaky I almost dropped the phone. In the video, Allison leaned close to Julian's ear, whispering something that made him laugh loudly, a sound that was a stranger to me. Her voice sounded sweet, her eyes sparkling under the restaurant lights. Then they got up and left, and Julian, ever the gentleman, opened the car door for her as if she were a lady and he were her lover. I replayed the video again and again, a self-inflicted torture. Each time felt like another stab to the heart. Allison, my daughter-in-law, whom I had treated like my own daughter, whom I had taught how to make our family's traditional flan, and Julian, the man I had given my whole life to, with whom I had built a family. What were they doing behind my back? Behind Daniel's back? The questions were a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. I saved all the photos and the video to a flash drive, making a note of every detail, date, time, place, even the name of the restaurant. My hands worked on autopilot, but my mind was in chaos. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe Julian and Allison were capable of something so low, so cruel. But the evidence was right in front of me, undeniable, a mountain of proof. I stayed in the bakery among trays of sweet pastries that smelled delicious, but I felt like my world was falling apart. I remembered the early days of the business when Julian would help me carry sacks of flour, when we would laugh together in that little kitchen, our dreams as big as the sky. Now it all seemed like a distant memory, a beautiful lie I had lived for too long. The next morning, I was in the small kitchen of the bakery, holding a list of orders for a large hotel downtown. The smell of flour and vanilla, which always brought me peace, felt empty that day, a hollow comfort. As soon as I finished signing the delivery invoice, my phone vibrated in my apron pocket. I wiped my hands and my heart sank when I saw it was a message from the detective. Just a short sentence. Mrs. Roberts, I'm sending you more evidence. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but my hands trembled as I opened the message. A series of photos appeared on the screen. The first showed Julian in his usual gray shirt, leaving a law office near the main plaza. By his side was Allison in a beige office dress, her hair in a high ponytail, and huge dark sunglasses that almost covered her face. A pathetic attempt at anonymity. They were walking very close together, not like in-laws, but like a couple. Their bodies a testament to their forbidden bond. In the next photo, they were standing in front of a 4-star hotel with gleaming glass doors and a gold sign. I zoomed in, desperately looking for some sign to deny what I was seeing, but there was nothing. They looked too natural, too comfortable together, a part of a world I was not a part of. Then came a short video from Mr. Thomas. I pressed play and my heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst, a frantic drum against my ribs. The shot was from a distance, but it was clear enough to see Julian and Allison on the 3rd-floor balcony of the hotel. His arm was around her waist, and she was resting her head on his shoulder, her long hair moving softly in the wind. And then, like a stab, I saw them share a quick kiss without trying to hide. It was a brief kiss, but it was enough to burn away the last spark of hope I had left. I replayed the video frame by frame, each image digging deeper into my soul, a slow, agonizing descent into hell. The room curtain opened slightly, and Allison came out, running to hug Julian, her face lit up with happiness, as if she were a young girl in love. I slumped into the chair, clutching the edge of the table to keep from falling apart. Mr. Thomas wrote, they also rented the room for the afternoon. It looks like they're staying the night. I'll keep an eye on them. I read the message over and over, my throat tight, as if I were being strangled. Just a few hours earlier, Julian had written to me, "Juliet, I won't be home tonight. I have to meet a potential partner from out of town. Get some rest." The tone was sweet and caring, just as it had been for years. But now I knew it was all a lie. A well-constructed lie. A potential partner from out of town. He wasn't out of town. He was here in a 4-star hotel with our own daughter-in-law. I opened my portable hard drive and carefully saved every photo and every video. Each time I hit save, I looked at the image as if to make sure I wasn't dreaming. In the video, Julian's gaze toward Allison was so tender. The way he caressed her hair reminded me of the way he used to do it with me more than 30 years ago. We were young and I believed our love would last forever. A promise whispered under a starry San Diego sky. Now seeing this, all I saw was lies and blatant betrayal. I remembered family gatherings, everyone sitting around the table, a tableau of our perfect family. Allison always sat far away from Julian. Sometimes she even looked at him with disgust. Daniel would joke, "Mom, I think Allison can't stand Dad. She avoids him like the plague." I believed it, too. I thought they just didn't get along, that she was just trying to fit into the family. But now I understood it had all been a farce, a carefully choreographed dance of deception. They acted too well in front of me, in front of Daniel, in front of the whole neighborhood. I felt like a fool, a blind wife, betrayed by 2 traitors right in front of my eyes. People were going about their lives unaware of what was happening on that hotel balcony. But Mr. Thomas had captured the perfect moment like a silent hunter, a snapshot of my reality. I replied to him, "Thank you. Please keep watching. I need to know everything." He answered briefly, "I will. Stay calm." That night, I returned to the house that had been my home. I opened the dresser drawer and took out a thick envelope, my hands moving with a grim determination. I printed all the evidence, photos of Julian and Allison leaving the lawyer's office, photos of them entering the hotel, the video of their kiss on the balcony. Each printout was a piece of my shattered heart, laid out on paper. I organized them chronologically, labeling each one with the date and time, as if I were preparing for a trial. The lawyer's office puzzled me the most. Why were they there? Was it for divorce papers? Or something worse, like planning to run away together? The thought made my stomach churn, a nauseous wave of betrayal. As I sat there, staring at the stack of papers, memories flooded back like a tidal wave. I remembered the day we met, in San Diego, at a beachside cafe. Julian was a young lawyer then, full of ambition, with a smile that could light up the room. I was working as a baker's assistant, dreaming of my own shop. He ordered a slice of apple pie and complimented my baking, saying it was the best he'd ever tasted. We talked for hours, about our dreams, our families, the future. That night, under the stars, he kissed me for the first time, promising a life together. We married a year later, in a small ceremony with just family. Daniel came along soon after, our pride and joy. We built a life in Texas, moving to Austin for Julian's job. I opened my bakery, Juliet's Sweets, with his support. He was there for every milestone. The birth of our grandson, the expansion of the bakery, the hard times when money was tight. Or so I thought. Now, it all felt tainted, every memory colored by this affair. I couldn't sleep that night. The bed felt too big, too empty, even though Julian wasn't home. I tossed and turned, my mind racing with questions. How long had this been going on? When did it start? At a family barbecue? During one of Allison's visits to the house when Daniel was away on business? Allison had married Daniel 5 years ago. She was young, vibrant, a graphic designer from Houston. I had welcomed her with open arms, teaching her family recipes, helping with the wedding planning. She called me Mom, hugged me tightly at holidays. The betrayal cut deeper because it wasn't just Julian, it was her too. My son's wife. The mother of my grandson. What would this do to Daniel? To little Tommy? The next day, I went to the bakery early, the routine a lifeline. As I kneaded dough for cinnamon rolls, my hands worked furiously, channeling the anger. Flour dusted the air like snow, but my thoughts were dark. Mr. Thomas called mid-morning. Mrs. Roberts, I have more. They left the hotel this morning. Allison drove back to her home, and Julian headed to his office. But I found something else. The lawyer they visited specializes in family law, divorces, custody. I think they're planning something big. His voice was steady, but the words hit me like a punch. Divorce. After 40 years. For her. I thanked him, hung up, and leaned against the counter, tears streaming down my face. The bakery staff noticed, but I brushed it off as allergies. That afternoon, I drove to Daniel's house, needing to see my grandson. Tommy, 4 years old, ran into my arms, his laughter a balm on my wounded soul. Allison was there, smiling sweetly, offering me coffee. Hi, Mum. What brings you over, she said, her voice light, as if nothing was wrong. I studied her, looking for signs of guilt. Her eyes darted away slightly, but she composed herself. We chatted about Tommy's preschool, the weather, mundane things. All the while, I wanted to confront her, to scream, how could you? But I held back. I needed more time, more evidence. As I left, she hugged me, her perfume that same sweet floral scent from the napkins. It took all my strength not to recoil. Days turned into weeks. Mr. Thomas kept sending updates, more meetings, more hotel stays, secret lunches in secluded spots. I compiled it all, a dossier of deceit. Julian's lies became more elaborate. Late night at the office. Business trip to Houston. Each one a knife twist. I acted normal, cooking his favorite meals, asking about his day. Inside, I was dying. The pain was physical, a constant ache in my chest. I lost weight, my clothes hanging loose. Friends asked if I was okay. Just stressed with the bakery, I lied. One evening, as I sorted through old photo albums, reminiscing about happier times, I found a letter from Julian's mother, written before she died. Take care of my boy, Juliet. He's lucky to have you. Tears fell onto the paper. How had it come to this? I recalled our 25th anniversary trip to the Grand Canyon, hiked the trails, held hands at sunset, renewed our vows in a quiet moment. Forever, Juliet, he said. Forever was a lie. The turning point came when Mr. Thomas sent a recording. He'd bugged Julian's car with my permission, a small device under the seat. The audio was grainy, but clear enough. Julian and Allison, driving to another rendezvous. I can't wait to be free, Dad, she said, her voice sultry. Dad? The email made sense now. It was their pet name, a twisted endearment. Soon, baby. The lawyer says the divorce will be quick. Daniel won't suspect. We'll start fresh in San Antonio. Julian's voice, full of excitement. They laughed, planned a life without us, Allison pregnant? No, but talking about having kids together. My blood boiled that night, I decided. Confrontation wasn't enough. They needed to feel pain, humiliation. Revenge brewed in my mind like a storm. I remembered the lubricant in the glove compartment. Their tool for betrayal. Industrial superglue from the bakery's supply closet, used for fixing equipment. Strong, fast-drying. The idea formed, dark and satisfying. I would replace it. Let them discover the consequences. I waited for Julian's next business dinner. He left, kissing my cheek absent-mindedly. I went to the garage, heart racing. Opened the glove box, took the lubricant. It was half-used, sticky. I emptied it in the sink, rinsed it, filled it with superglue from a large tube. The labels looked similar enough, in the heat of the moment, they wouldn't notice. I placed it back, exactly as found. Then, I waited. The next day, Julian came home early, looking pale. Not feeling well, he muttered, heading to the bedroom. I smiled inwardly. That evening, he said he was meeting partners again. I nodded, wishing him luck. Hours later, my phone rang. It was our neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. Juliet, something's wrong. There's screaming from your house, but you're not home? Wait, Julian's car is here. Oh God, fire department is coming. I rushed home, feigning panic. Sirens blared, lights flashing. Neighbors gathered. Firefighters burst in. Julian and Allison, in the guest room, our guest room, stuck together in a compromising position. The superglue had done its job too well. In their panic, they knocked over a candle, romantic ambience, I suppose, starting a small fire on the curtains. Smoke billowed. They screamed for help, but couldn't separate. The firefighters, paramedics, everyone saw. Humiliation complete. Daniel arrived, called by neighbors. His face when he saw them, heartbreak. Dad? Allison? The truth exploded. Divorce papers flew, mine against Julian, Daniel's against Allison. Custody battles, scandals in our quiet Austin suburb. Julian lost his job, reputation ruined. Allison fled to her parents. I kept the bakery, the house, my dignity. Revenge was sweet, but the pain lingered. I rebuilt, stronger. Tommy lives with Daniel now. I see him every day. Life goes on, but scars remain. If you're watching, remember, betrayal has consequences.